Welcome to the Selling Show, where we unpack, repack, and break down exactly how CEOs, founders, and senior executives sell their ideas, point of view, and personal brand to the people who matter most. This is your host, David Newman, and you are in the right place if you want to build market eminence, amplify your influence, and attract high-value prospects, investors, partners, talent, and media opportunities with less chasing and more confidence. Let's go. Maybe you've written a book, maybe you're thinking about writing a book, maybe you're planning your next book. Either way, you know that you want this book to do well. What does doing well look like in 2026 and beyond? To answer that question, my friend Robbie Samuels is here to give us the straight scoop. Robbie, welcome to the show.
I'm really excited to have this conversation with you and reveal all the secrets that I talk about all the time.
Yes, all the secrets that you've written in your amazing book, all the secrets that are all over the place. So just to solve the mystery right up front, you are a book launch strategist to the stars, meaning me specifically, but many, many other happy, successful clients who have launched their book. I want to set a little context here, because when you and I worked together, this was my fourth book. I like to tell people I did the first 3 book launches the hard way. Then I found Robbie Samuels. So, and also you've written a book. We should say this right up front. You've written an amazing book called Launch Your Book that outlines in very specific detail what you recommend people do, either with you or without you, or with your coaching or with your done-for-you service. You have all different levels of this. Teach it, do it with you, do it for you. What do you recommend people think about? What's important in a book launch today?
Well, first, write a quality book that has an audience that knows they have that problem that you're writing about. So if you write about a problem because you see the problem out in the world, but your intended audience does not even have a clue that that is directed to them, you will not be able to match your book to their reading list. Yeah. If you write a book with a great problem that they know about, but it is not well done and executed, and that means a variety of things, both the writing, the editing, the formatting, the design of it, the delivery of it, the execution of the launch, it will not find their intended audience. And those who do read it will likely leave 2-star ratings, and that will not help you reach the people you need to reach. So that is like first and foremost. And all of that happens before you meet with me, which is actually why I created the Author ROI Lab, to help people get started thinking about how the book relates to a business before they go write the book. Because I see people all the time on the other end of this, where they're getting ready to publish. They're in the process. Their book is being formatted as we're on this brainstorming call. And 12 minutes in, this one woman in particular could not tell me who her book was for in a way where I could tell her where they hang out. Because if you say vague things like, recent college graduates, I was like,
women.
I don't know where like unemployment offices, you might find them, but like, I don't think. So to avoid all that angst about where these people hang out, is you've got to have that already figured out. And then really it's not about selling the book. It's about the services that come after the book. So I think a successful launch has all of those pieces in place. And then I would say the reason yours was so successful is because of everything you had done the previous 5 years plus before launching this book, how you engaged with your community, how you showed up both in your email list and in your network writ large, how you were generous and supporting other people. So you got a really good high response rate to requests. And that is entirely out of my control, because I do the same sequence for every client, but I can tell which people have been nurturing and which have not been nurturing their community. And so if you know you're going to write a book in 27, 28, I would say don't hesitate now to start sharing those ideas, getting people into a conversation with you about them, validating those ideas, having the research calls, figuring out what the problem language is, all of that. Don't just write a book and publish it.
Well, and this also speaks to your background and your other areas of expertise, specifically networking, connection building, community building. Let's take a very brief detour. And just for the people that don't know the backstory, please share a little bit about your professional journey that sort of culminated in this work that you're doing today, and what were some interesting kind of pit stops along the way.
So I've always loved gathering people and convening people, and discovered that was sort of a superpower early on. I had a city councilor in Boston who actually gave me the honor of naming my birthday Robbie Samuels Day, which I haven't talked about. So Robbie Samuels Day in Boston, September 16th, 2011. He was saying that his superpower of being a politician was convening people. And I remember looking at him when we were standing at my event, and I thought, oh, I don't have to run for office. I could just do this. So I ran events for a living and for fun. I ran meetup groups to bring together lefty progressive folks, and I ran fundraising events for an LGBT legal rights organization. And while I was there, I started speaking about networking because of what I was learning through my group. And so that went on for 5 years on the side. And then I left the day job at the end of 2014, went full-time into entrepreneurship, and realized I needed to really figure out my audience because I didn't want to keep selling to nonprofit. Fell in love with Smart Passive Income by Pat Flynn, his podcast. Decided I wanted to do everything every guest got on and talked about, and then thought, okay, slow down, just host your own podcast. And so I launched a podcast, started recording in 2015, released it in 2016. First book was in 2017. I should mention I joined the National Speakers Association the month after I left my day job because I thought, well, I'm going to spend the next 10 years actively being a member, going to every annual conference for 10 years, and then decide whether it's worth it rather than waiting 10 years, struggling to build up my profession, and then showing up. So I did. I've been an active member for over a decade now. But after the book came the coaching program. I then hired my friend and mentor, Dory Clark, and she said, do Harvard Business Review articles and do a TEDx. And I was like, oh, why did I just, okay, I'll do that. Since 2019, I had the opportunity to do both those things. My TEDx talk about networking at conferences comes out January 2020. I'm poised to be an overnight success, 10 years in the making. 2 months later, March 2020, nobody needs to know how to network at events. We're all at home. I have to find a new way to show up and offer value. I write an article, blog post, 9 ways to network in a pandemic. And number 3 was to host a virtual happy hour. Thus, I hosted my first virtual happy hour on March 13th, 2020. And I've been hosting a Friday event ever since. It just switched to an afternoon after being 5 o'clock Friday for over 6 years. And that was really my response, was like, let's figure out how to turn events into not content connection, not just in person, but virtually. And I became a virtual event design consultant and an executive Zoom producer, thriving 6-figure business. Everyone's like, how do you do that? Wrote a second book, which is about how do you build an audience before you try to sell anything. It's about research calls. Finally get around to releasing my third book, which is about everything I learned about using Zoom to create these dynamic, transformative, engaging online experiences. All 3 books, I did a really thoughtful launch. So I became known as the launch guy. And I resented it at first because I was trying to be known as the networking guy. But I became a multi-passionate entrepreneur. I accepted and embraced that title. And so for like, I don't know, the 6th or 7th time in 7 years, Dory said, why are you not a book launch coach? And that was October of 23. And I went full into that. I was testing new ideas as the demand for Zoom sort of faded, and built out a whole ecosystem called BizBook Pub Hub, launched a podcast, started to really identify what my offer was, expanded my offer, became a done for you service. So now I'm a book launch strategist, but I'm a coach and, a business strategist as well. I understand networking and leveraging networks and research calls and validating ideas. And at the end of all this, we have a party on Zoom. We get to really celebrate the author and showcase them by having guest speakers and doing an interview and leading to whatever the offer is that comes after. So that's a differentiator for me, is it's not really about the book. It's about how the book is a business development tool and how we're creating a pipeline from the book to the business. And everything I've done in the last, half dozen years is because it's led to me being the right person for this moment. In retrospect, it all makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and I was gonna call out right before you were kind of went down the punch list, all of those skills you are deploying today on behalf of your clients, starting with the networking, the giving, the community building, the relationships, the sharing, the generosity. Then, we're doing, here's an author who's got 250 plus reviews on book after book after book. Each I'm talking about, right? 250 on book one, 250 on book two, 250 on book three, 250, probably 300 on some, right? Or have we hit that
I'm
yet?
just about 900 written reviews total. The last two are over 250. My last book is 260. I'm hovering around 200 for the first two, a little more on the second.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about written reviews, not ratings, because that's the other fallacy that we fall into, which is you look at someone, and I love Dory Clark, and I'll use her as an example. I think she's incredibly gifted and talented and recognized for all of that. But about a third of the people who left a rating left a review. Yeah. And if you go and look at your last book, it was about 95% left a rating, left a review. And that's the same. That's kind of my metrics as well, is that I've gotten much better at making sure that it's not just a push for a 5-star rating or whatever number rating, but to really get people to write something, which is incredibly hard to do. Like, I'm glad that it's valuable because the effort is really there, but because it is so hard to do, I think it increases the value of each person who takes the time to leave those reviews.
Hey, hang on. Do you have a copy of my new book, Market Eminence? No? Oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's fantastic. It's got over 200 5-star reviews on Amazon. Go grab a copy right now at marketeminence.com. I think we need to do some debunking. I think we need to do some myth busting because...
Wait, contrarian points of view?
Yeah.
Like you.
Yeah, I know. It's almost like we got to go full market eminence on this thing.
Let's do it.
Every single freaking author, seemingly, is a quote unquote best-selling author. And they get the little silver gold foils, the Amazon #1 bestseller. And I think you know the story about there was a dirty sweat sock that some guy put on Amazon to make a point, and that dirty sweat sock was an Amazon #1 bestseller for 2 hours on a Tuesday in the middle of the night because he got 3 of his friends to buy the dirty sweat sock. So if everyone's a bestseller, and pretty much everyone now is in on that game, your clients know it, your prospects know it, your colleagues know it, your peers know it, help me blow up this, I got to be an Amazon #1 bestseller. Even if it's a flash in the pan, I take my screenshot and I've won the prize.
I have met with over 60 publishers, hybrid publishers, assisted self-publishers of all kinds. And early on, I remember so many of them, this is early 2024, they had either in-house a bestseller campaign that they included as part of their package, they upsold, or they referred out to another company that offered that. And they all agreed in this private conversation that it was complete BS. And I said, well, then why do you have that? Or why do you offer that? Why do you refer for that? And they said, well, it's what the author wants. And I remember finally just saying, I can't think of another circumstance where the client sets the strategy and not the expert. And I finally said that on call 12. And that person said, well, I don't really have anything else to offer them. And they deserve to get something for all of this. So I also believe that they deserve to get something for all of this. I've hit #1 37 times across 4 books in 4 countries. And I say it in that way. I don't ever say international bestselling author, because Phil M. Jones, who wrote Exactly What to Say, which has sold, hundreds of thousands of copies, been translated into more than a dozen languages, that by every metric is an international bestselling book. And it was published by Page 2, a hybrid publisher, right? So it wasn't like he went and got a Madison Avenue publisher to do all this work for him. It was a fantastic book, and it got great results, and it got great reach. So I want to change the discourse from these fake inflated things, because I also know people who sell #1 in 1 US and 1 Canadian category, and they declare themselves international bestselling authors. And I want to just comment also on this piece about changing the book cover. So if you change your book cover to say something about being an international best-selling author with a vague reference, like doesn't even say Amazon or Amazon #1 bestseller, first of all, you can't use Amazon's name on your book cover without their permission. Vague claims will actually just make all of us think that this is not published through a traditional publisher. And to me, the goal is to have your book look as close to a traditionally published book as possible, because you would want your book to sort of fit into that bookshelf and not stand out. The only reason you would have a traditional publisher change the cover would say things like 300,000 copies sold, New York Times bestseller, Pulitzer Prize, right? There's some really clear and validated metric. It wouldn't be a vague Amazon thing. So in most categories, not all, but in many of the categories that we're competing in, you can sell about 24 books in a focused amount of time and hit in the top 10 and likely the #1. Now, I have a beautiful screenshot of my book being #1 in market research in front of Malcolm Gladwell and Seth Godin. And I am proud of this because I didn't hesitate to put my book in market research, knowing that Malcolm Gladwell had a new book that referenced his older book. Seth Godin had a new book coming out, which means all of his books were being sold more. And I still said that is the right category for my book called Launch Your Book. Yeah. And then there was a moment, I don't remember how long, and I have a great screenshot that's rotating on my LinkedIn. But if you go to that book's page, there's no evidence of it ever hitting #1. Instead, you will see 260, I think, 4 ratings and 260 written reviews if you know how to click through. Yeah. So can you hit #1 along the way? Yes, but it's a byproduct, not the goal. And everyone, please stop buying bestseller campaigns. They're completely bogus. They're just taking your money. If you can buy a campaign that focuses on reviews from your own network, your own likely prospects and referral partners, now you're having conversations as a business owner that could generate new revenue and new media opportunities. This isn't about buying reviews. This isn't about buying access to a list of random people. So the other thing is we pervert even that intention. People hear, oh, reviews, and then they go and game the system in some way. But it doesn't matter. If you've got money to burn, go have a bonfire. This is all a waste of everyone else's time, and it doesn't mean anything. And shout out to Jamie Nolan for starting these kinds of conversations online with NSA members. She's putting out some blunt truths lately, and it's getting a lot of traction on her posts. And she did one just the other day about this whole #1 bestseller shtick where people are being vague about the source. And I mean, all of these systems, whether it's Amazon, which can easily be manipulated, but even whatever it is, USA Today or New York Times. I mean, if you've got $100,000, $250,000, there's somebody who will help you figure out a way to get on those lists. Oh yeah. So I don't play any of those games. I don't work with those people. That's not my people. But it's the people who really worked hard, like Mercury Stardust. She's known as a trans handyman, wrote a book for renters about taking care of a home. And she did 40 city tour towards the tail end of the pandemic and hit #1 on New York Times. Now, she had a massive following and she traveled to 40 cities to do signings and had crowds and crowds of people. So that is the quote unquote organic method of doing this. Yeah. It was not, easy by any means, and it still cost a lot, but it allowed her to be in touch with her fans. It wasn't just she spent a check and someone else did all the work of buying in different markets. So I think vanity is what we want to avoid. All these vanity metrics. I've been focusing, my latest sort of mantra is strategy over vanity always. And if you could just think, is this strategic? Does this move me closer to my goal? Or is this going to just make my heart feel I finally got somewhere. I feel good about myself. I reached this pinnacle, but it doesn't actually translate to money in the bank. It's probably a vanity metric you're chasing.
So good and so important for people to hear. You said something that is profound. Well, you said many things that are profound, but the one profundity that I want to call out and reinforce with our listeners, you said even legitimate bestsellers where they're on the list for weeks and weeks, months and months. Once they're no longer a bestseller, there is no evidence. There is no trail. There is no nothing. You lose that little orange banner that says #1 bestseller. You lose that little ranking that says, number 240 out of 8 million books on Amazon. And now it's just a regular book. What is permanent, hopefully as permanent as it can be, is the reviews. So that book with 240 reviews is always going to be that book with 240 reviews. Whether at that current snapshot in time, you are #1 in market research, number 17 in market research, or not even on the list. 240 reviews. So think about buyer psychology, right? This is something really, really important. Think about the way that you would buy a book on Amazon. Are you going to buy a book based on hype and stickers and logos, or are you going to go and do your own research and then say, oh my gosh, this book has 240 reviews. This other book I'm thinking of has 17, and this other third book I'm thinking of has 53. 240 people can't be wrong if it's a 4.7, 4.8, 4.9 rating. So there's the social proof component, right? This is an evergreen marketing strategy. It goes back thousands of years. People want to see other people validate their decision. The way we do that on Amazon is reviews. And those are permanent. Those are evergreen. Please speak to that for me.
Well, I also want to say that the more nuance you get about this, the more educated you are as a consumer. So my books have hit #1 a number of times. My last 2 books, if you search for my name, Robbie Samuels, and just find a listing of books by me, you will notice that most likely my last 2 books, which is I think it's actually on Breakout of Boredom, and it's also on my last book, Launch Your Book. It says in the search results page, top rated, and it says it in this little tiny font, and none of the other books have it. And it says top rated because it's Amazon kind of pointing you, and it's subtle, but it's the kind of thing that if you were searching for a book on a topic and one book shows up, and yeah, they have reviews and the ratings, but it says top rated. What does that mean? So I'm not sure exactly how you get that, but it's a combination of how it's ranked in the sales over time, but the fact that it's got a certain quantity of reviews. So there are things that Amazon will do, because what's their job? Their job is to get you to buy. And so they want to steer you towards the best products that align with what you're looking for. They're not trying to point you to shoddy stuff or things that are irrelevant. The other thing is verified purchases matter for the Amazon search results algorithm. And the Amazon search results algorithm is important for discoverability. So there are keywords tied to our topics, and people are using Amazon as like a little search box. So they type in some keywords and a search results page pops up. Well, how do you get your book to rank higher on that search results page? That is not something that you're like thinking about, but like that's how people are going to find you. Like how far down are they going to scroll? Now you can pay and sponsor an ad. My book shows up as the first non-sponsored book if you search book launch. Now, some of the other books in that area are going to be about launching a product. It's a book about launches, but not about book launches.
Yes.
Now, there's a book called Book Launch by a fairly well-known publishing house. And when I was writing my book, that's the one I kept paying attention to because they were right at the top. But they haven't had a review since 2023. So recency reviews, verified purchase reviews, the percentage of those, the rating, like you said, the 4.9, the 5.0, the 4.8, that, and then the quantity reviews. So my quantity is lower than his. He has 911 ratings, 911 reviews and like 2,000 ratings. So good number of people have left a review. So I'm about, not even a third of that, but I have the recency. It's a newer book. And so my book's being placed above his now, even though his book has so many more reviews. So ongoing reviews is important, but I want to go back to what you said about humans. More than 90% of consumers check reviews before making a purchase. And so few of us leave reviews on a regular basis. Things have to be wildly good or wildly bad for us to even think about leaving a review. And most of our lives are not lived in those extremes, so we don't write reviews, which means that a small number of people can have an outsized influence in the buying habits of people who come after them. So if we can get a launch team of likely prospects who need the book's content or referral partners who know those people to leave a written review, then we are going to start getting that sort of word of mouth process happening in our network. And for anyone else who stumbles across this book, these helpful reviews will help them decide if the book is for them or not for them. Because we're not talking about all 5-star reviews. Some of the most helpful reviews for making a purchase are when you read the 3-star or 2-star. And the problem someone had, like I have a 1-star book review on my book about Zoom, about how to use Zoom. It says wokeness at its best. And it's critical of the fact that I want to create welcoming online experiences. So it's got like one line after that title. Well, you're looking for a book about Zoom, you read the 1-star review, that's the 1-star review, and you think, wait, this is a book that's going to address that also? And that might make you want to buy the book. Like one person's yuck is someone else's yum. So that is like the best 1-star I could have gotten. Thank you so much, whoever you are in the world.
Yes.
So I'm all for aiming for the reviews. They stay on the page. They help the book be discovered. They're long lasting. The screenshots are nice for other sales pages, swipe copy, whatever you're going to put it out on. But years later, no, the evidence is gone as soon as the orange ribbon fades away. I mean, there's nothing that you can. It's not even like New York Times where you can like go look up what was the top 30 books. Like there's no record.
Yeah.
So save yourself all that time and just do the things that are more permanent.
Absolutely. And by the way, those campaigns that you mentioned, when these either a private company will sell a bestseller campaign or your publisher will add on, we're not talking cheap. We're talking like 10 grand, 15 grand, 50 grand, sometimes way more, depending on what list. But, even Amazon campaigns can be 10 or 15 grand, which to me is insane. It's insane.
David, you really need to talk to me about my prices. I need to have that conversation.
Yeah, well, maybe. But number one, what you do actually works.
Mine works. And I had someone the other day was like, wait, you do the implementation for all of that?
Right.
And he was telling me about this $25,000 marketing book-a-box thing he'd bought. And he was like, okay, these are the people I'm working with. They spend a lot of money on their books, but they're not always tied to a strategic outcome.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about the launch your book method, because you totally lay this out in great detail and people need to buy this book, Launch Your Book. It is very, very detailed, but just give us the macro level stages and phases of how we convene our launch team to help us ultimately populate all these beautiful, amazing reviews.
Well, we've got to do the critical things, the precursor, which is write a book for people who know they need the content.
Yes.
And it's got to be a quality book. Okay, so we have to have all those.
Yes.
That's a big assumption.
Crap books do not qualify.
Yeah. It's a quality books only. First phase is to actually have a conversation with me or somebody about where the book is headed. Like where do you want to lead people? And that's what I do on these brainstorming calls. So really dive into that bit. Because if you can't identify in the first few minutes for me, like who your audience is and how we would find them, like I'm not selling you anything. I'm going to explain to you how to go validate this offer, and I'm going to let you come back to me in 6 weeks. But it doesn't make sense. It's not going to work for you, and it's not going to look good for me. So once you have an idea of where you want to bring people, then you're going to search your network to find likely prospects and referral partners. Now, the first group are people who would directly benefit from what you're writing about, and the second group are people who might know those people. Now, you can add some general supporters, but the hardest reviews to get are from friends and family. They love you, but they don't get what you do. They don't need what you do. They don't even understand this whole importance of this book stuff, and they're impressed by you, but they don't get the importance of reviews. And if they love you and they write a review, it's going to take a lot of effort to get them to do that, because they don't usually do it, and they have no one to then introduce you to. So it's kind of a lot of effort for a dead end. So sure, you can include some people in your world like that, but I would say focus on people who can actually help you carry the message forward and get them to opt in to writing a review. So build a list of the invites and get them to say yes to being on your launch team. That's phase one. And I make them work for this. I have a whole Google form. It's not just fill out your name and email. I have to ask them a bunch of questions because I want this to be a conscious, intentional effort. They're like, yes, I set the intention to do this thing. And we also gather some other useful information along the way about, podcasts that you could be invited on, etc. Then the advanced reader copy becomes available. This is a PDF of the book before it is published. So phase 2 is we give that to the launch team, the people who said yes, and we give them 2 weeks to write a helpful review. And to make that easier, we offer them 4 or 5 review prompts and say, just write 2 or 3 sentences in response to a couple of these review prompts. This is not a book report. Do you have to read the book cover to cover? No. You don't need a Kindle to read a Kindle book or anything special to read this PDF. You're just opening it up on your computer and reading it. It's all super easy. And the reason for the short time frame is to make it more urgent, because left unchecked, it will just sit on the person's to-do list. And here's what happens with most authors is they passively ask for support. And they'll be like, hey, David, I'm working on a book. And when it comes out, I'd love to get your support. And you're like, oh, I love Robbie.
Yeah, totally.
Robbie, I'll do it. And I don't do a great job tracking that or reminding you. And you have a vague sense that you are obligated to do this thing for me, but you can never remember in the right moments. Like you're driving and you're like, oh my God, this thing for Robbie. You're in the shower. Oh my God, this thing for Robbie. So you never have in front of you what you need when you need it. You can't remember the name. Or you don't know the timing. Is it due yet? What is it? Yeah. And you're busy and it's not your priority. And I'm going to be at an event that we're going to cross paths at, and you're going to kind of avoid me. It might even be subtle. It might even be unconscious, but you're afraid that you are going to cross paths and I'm going to say, hey, you never wrote that review. Now, here's the thing. The people who are very passively asking are not going to be the ones who keep really solid track either. So that's probably not the case, but you're repelling the same people that could have been your best advocates. Instead, they have to set the intention, and then our job is to make it easy for them to follow through and remind them and nudge them and support them and just make a container. So 2 weeks is important there. And in those 2 weeks is also when you did the private training. So for people who don't download the ARC or don't the advanced reader copy or don't open it or don't have the time to read it, they could show up to the training, hear a couple of great takeaways, and that will either lead them to think, oh, I know enough to write a review, or wait, I should read this whole book. This was amazing. Or, oh, I know who to introduce to the author. This is great. I know exactly who to introduce them to. So any of those outcomes are fantastic for the author. And then the book is published, and anyone who applied an advanced review is sent an email with their review text and instructions to buy the discounted Kindle book, ideally, and to leave their review as a verified purchase review. And people who have not submitted an advanced review are just told, go buy the book. And by the way, here are the instructions again for leaving a review. Yeah. We give people 2.5, 3 weeks to do that. And then we have a launch day. Now, I want you to notice the publication day and the launch day are not the same day. They're 2.5 or 3 weeks apart. And it's the soft launch in between, which is where the launch team is buying the book and leaving their verified purchase reviews. And this is when you're most likely to hit number 1. So if that's important to you, by getting dozens of people, if not hundreds of people, to buy your book and leaving reviews, that's how you're going to hit that number 1 bestseller in these different categories. Yeah. But then we're going to have launch day where we're going to announce it to the world. What most authors are doing, even when they're going to traditional publishers, the book comes out and they're introduced to a PR or marketing place, and they're sending people to the book sales page immediately when there's no evidence of sales or reviews. There's no social proof. That is a page that is not going to be set up to convert. You're paying to send traffic to a page not set up to convert. It's just like it's just a backwards way of approaching this. Marketing should happen after you fully launch the book. Press releases, podcast guesting. To me, that's when the party happens. The party happens the day after, and it's really about the offer, about how to even get some more support from the author, or help get the message out, or how to stay in touch with the author. And the strategy that I'm providing is about how to really leverage that. And you were an interesting case on this because you had so many things you could be offering people. And it was fun just to brainstorm, how do we take what you've been doing and chunk it down to make a stepping stone from the book into the world that you have for people. And that's the difference between hiring someone on Upwork who's going to manage a bunch of reviews for you and having a strategist who's constantly saying, how does this fit with the next step, with the outcome you're aiming for, with the business that you're building? So that's kind of the flow of the process. It's all written about in the book, as you mentioned. And if they go to booklaunchbrainstorm.com, they can get the book, they can get the bonus material. The bonus material includes a checklist to help you assess whether you're ready to launch. And gives you some pointers to like, don't forget these things, these things.
Holy smokes, so much value in this episode. Listen, if you are loving what you're hearing, feel free to download, subscribe, tell a friend, leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to The Selling Show. Now, back to the interview.
Well, as we're landing the plane, I'm going to ask you two final questions. The final question is, where are all the places that people can get more Robbie Samuel's genius? You mentioned just this one, but there's more too. But before we go to that second question, the first question is, if people were to take one overarching concept from our conversation today about launching a book successfully, as painlessly as possible, for as long a lasting impact and long lasting business benefit to them from their book, what would the overarching concept be?
Well, it's about figuring out the end before beginning.
Yeah.
And I'm part of the National Speakers Association, which is how you and I met. And there's this mantra: write a book, 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 write. You need a book, you need a book, you need a book. And it's a lot of pressure. You have to have a book. Oh, it's a business card. It's a great leave behind. It's a business card. Let's stop thinking about it as a business card. Business cards get thrown away. Okay. It's not that helpful. They're not memorable for the most part. You can't find them when you need them. This is a business development tool. This is not a product. This is a strategy. Right. And so I think the answer to your question is to just rethink what the book is in relation to the business, and stop using it to bolster your authority and use it to prop open the door like a brick between you and the prospect, between you, the referral partner, between you and a collaborator. And every conversation you have during a launch should push the door open wider, so there's no barrier suddenly, and you're just invited to collaborate. If the book is serving in that way, then it will result in the kinds of conversations business owners should be having with their likely prospects, referral partners. It will lead to new revenue and new media opportunities. For most of us, what's happening is we're very excited when the book comes out. We hold it up and take a selfie. We might stand on it to feel a little taller. People come over and admire us, and then we step off and go about our day, and it's just laying around gathering digital and physical dust. Yeah. It is not serving us. No matter how many we have, we could have a dozen books, and it doesn't change the equation. You're an author. Great. Now what? How does this book fit in with the rest of it? If your book educates people and changes their awareness about the problem they have, from the symptom aware that they've been floating around looking for Band-Aid solutions, they become aware of the bigger problem, become aware of the bigger solution, they become aware and begin to trust you as their guide. This is how a book can change their lives and your life. It's not about vanity then. It's about strategically aligning your knowledge with their need, making sure they hear about it, building that trust. And that last piece of that awareness arc is about urgency. Now they're like, oh, if I do nothing, what happens? I now know what to do. So that's when people start, calling you. My conversion has changed so dramatically after my book came out. I've had nobody hire me for the process without the implementation since then. I had one person ask me for advising because she was doing it a little bit differently, and just wanted me to touch base, a good friend of mine. But everybody who wanted my actual process was like, you know what, Robbie, I now understand how much goes into this.
Yeah.
Whereas before, people were like, oh, thanks for the tips. I might ask you a few questions here and there, but I'll figure it out. My book changed that conversation. People get referred by someone like you. They flip through my book. They get on a call. They are buying on that call. I mean, the product market fit, it just is so dramatically different when you're able to lay out the case clearly. And then there are the people who don't hire me because they don't have the funding, and they have great results. And one of my favorite testimonials is someone who got 74 reviews because she couldn't afford me because she made a bad financial decision with her book. And she came on record and did a video call with me recording to say, I got all these great results. It was amazing. It was a great process. And for my next book, I'm going to hire Robbie first because that was a lot of work. And I'm like, wow, all she did was buy my book. And she's like the best referral partner I could ever get.
For sure.
That's what a book should be able to do. And it shouldn't just be a product that sits on a shelf.
And I want to give you additional credit because everyone listening is like, well, I don't want to give away all my secrets in my book. I don't want to put all the detail in my book because then people won't need me. People won't hire me. What you just said, and it's a beautiful illustration of this principle at work. You lay out exactly what to do and how to do it at every stage and phase of this. People read the book and the thoughts that are going through their head is like, wow, this is amazing. I never thought of doing it this way. Number two, this must work because it is so detailed, so specific, so granular. And number three, the most important thing is that they say to themselves, there ain't no way I'm doing this myself. I am hiring the pros. I am hiring the guy who wrote this book to do it for me because now I see how many moving parts there are and how complex this is. It's not complicated, but it's complex, and it requires things that most entrepreneurs do not have, which is systems, team, and follow-up. You don't have systems, you don't have team, you don't have follow-up. Robbie and his team do and do and do. So there you go. Hire Robbie Samuels. Now, to that end, where can people go to connect more with you? Podcast, BizBook Pub Hub, Kindle Flash Sale. Where can they go to get the entry point to all of it?
I need to turn you saying "Hi, Robbie Samuels" into my ringtone or something.
Yes,
it's so affirming.
Yes,
thank you, David. I love that because you were great. You were great to work with. You got some really incredible results. So booklaunchbrainstorm.com is where you'll find my book. It's called "Launch Your Book: An Entrepreneur's Guide to Reviews That Drive Revenue." You'll also be able to get the bonus content right there, whether or not you get the book. And that includes checklists and timelines and all kinds of information that you might need to cobble it together if you want to DIY. And you'll see an opportunity to schedule a call with me. You can see all my offers and all the things I do, including the Author ROI Lab. So you could decide if you want to be really strategic before you write a book. That would help you tremendously. And then I've created a resource ecosystem for entrepreneurial authors called BizBook Pub Hub, which you can find at bizbookpubhub.com. And that has, the podcast, over 500 episodes, the Kindle Flash sales. We have a new blog we just started, and there's a curated directory of about 24 experts who will support you kind of wherever you are in the author journey: writing, editing, publishing, launching, and marketing. So we meet you where you are, including through free virtual networking events that I run every month for either the authors and writers. And I also run another one for National Speakers Association Philadelphia called Speakeasy. So I'm running events monthly for speakers and for authors. And it's all in there at bizbookpubhub.com. Oh, and I'd love to connect on LinkedIn. Like, I post a ton of great clips and video content and try to start interesting conversations. So yeah, find me there as well. Say hi.
Super. All those links, by the way, will be in the show notes, the LinkedIn, so you can connect with Robbie directly. And of course, the Brainstorm link that has all the book goodies, the book a call, the bonuses, the resources, all of it. We're going to link it up in the show notes directly under this episode at thesellingshow.com. Robbie Samuels, put me on your ringtone, put me on your phone. I am a fan for life. I am an advocate for life. If people don't hire you, they're just a goofy, silly goober.
And that wraps up another episode of The Selling Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, tell a friend, go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thesellingshow.com. See you next time.